Hey, what's up? Justin here with 65 Drums. Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about some really interesting low volume drum heads. These are not mesh heads, and these are not acoustic drum heads. There's something in between those two things. So while I was at NAMM, I got a chance to run into the owner of this really new company that's focusing on making drum heads that are volume matched with two sets of cymbals. Zildjian L80s or Sabian quiet tones, so basically 75% quieter than regular drum heads, and then also a separate set that are volume matched with the Sabian FRX cymbals. So here's a basic rundown of how these mesh heads work, at least to my understanding. They start with a regular mesh head. They say it's not a regular mesh head, it's a specific kind of mesh, but whatever. And then on top of the mesh head, they glue a piece of mylar acoustic drum head material. And the amount of acoustic material, the larger the circle, the louder it will be and the more acoustic tone that it will have. But the smaller this material, the less acoustic tone it will have and the quieter it will be. But you're still playing on an acoustic drum head if you hit in the center of even that small little patch. So I played both of these types of mesh heads with their respective cymbals that they're volume matched with. And here's my basic takeaway, starting with the quieter ones. I really liked these. It felt like you were playing a Remo silent stroke, but with an acoustic drum head smack dab in the center of it. That little piece of mylar acoustic drum head made it feel different. You can tell when you're hitting it with your stick that it just feels like an acoustic drum head, maybe a little bit thicker, but it's still acoustic material. So I gotta say, this was unlike any kind of drum head I've ever played in my life. And it was very interesting to play from the edge of the snare to the other edge of the snare. Playing on the center, it sounds better, it sounds more acoustic-like, and it's also a little bit louder. Playing on the mesh, it feels less acoustic-like and it's also a little bit quieter. So you're kind of getting the best of both worlds with this mesh head. Of course, I only played it for a few minutes. I didn't play it for like 3 weeks, and now this is my in-depth review, but I really enjoyed playing on these. And it's better than playing on Remo silent strokes. This is a better experience. You're getting back some of that acoustic tone, which is really important for people that want to play in low volume situations. And by the way, just a really quick word on the Sabian quiet tone cymbals. I'm not really a huge fan of them. I like them in video clips, like just hearing them every now and then is fine. But when you're actually sitting down and playing with a full set of them, I just find them to be a little bit tinny, a little bit too high pitched. I kind of prefer the sound of the Zildjian L80 cymbals. I think they sound nicer. Or maybe just a mix, because the Sabian ones have a better sounding bell zone, so maybe I would have a Sabian quiet tone ride cymbal, but all the other cymbals be the Zildjian L80s. I don't know. A mix of different cymbals, getting the strengths and weaknesses out of the mix would be really cool. So of the two sets of drum heads that this company makes, those are the quieter ones. Now let's move ahead to the louder ones. These are meant to volume match the Sabian FRX line of cymbals. If you remember, I covered those on the channel like a year or so ago, and the whole point is that those cymbals have, kind of acoustic level volume of cymbals, but the sustain is a lot quicker. With these drum heads, they're going for the same kind of thing. Because they have a lot bigger surface area of acoustic material on top of the mesh, they sound louder, they have better tone, but what they do really well is cut out the resonance. So instead of 4.5 seconds of resonance from a floor tom, these have 2.5 seconds of resonance. And it really shocks you when you're playing these for the first time. They told me, hit the floor tom as loud as you can. And I did, and the cutoff of sound was really quick. The one thing that I'm not really excited about with these drum heads is the fact that there's a lot of air bubbles in the current format that they're in. I realize this is a prototype and they'll work that stuff out later, but at least in the prototype phase, those air bubbles, at least on the louder version, kind of were distracting and they didn't look that great. They looked kind of ugly. Thankfully though, they should probably get those out by the time it enters actual full production. And also, this is coming in a bunch of different color configurations. Okay, let's talk about pricing. Take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt, because this is NAMM we're talking about, and these drum heads aren't out available for purchase yet. But apparently the quiet ones will sell for about $129. That's a full setup of 5 drum heads. Meanwhile, the louder drum heads are going to be selling for $220. And then finally, you can buy a full set of drum shells with the mesh heads and a whole set of cymbals, low volume cymbals, for $750. Now, like I said, that's just possible pricing. But if those prices do hold where they're at, or anything a little bit similar where they're at right now, I think that a lot of people will be interested in these because it seems like a good buy. Now, to be clear, these drum heads are not for everybody, but I think they could be a very powerful tool that you could use if you need them in certain situations. Some people just don't like electronic drums and they'd rather play a low volume drum setup. So this with a set of low volume cymbals could be really, really useful to those types of people. And for me personally, I'm really interested to try these out with acoustic drum triggers. That way you could have an electronic setup that doesn't sound terrible while you're practicing or even if you're on stage. But anyway, those are my thoughts on these drum heads. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Have an amazing day and I'll see you all in a few.